Our keynote speaker is typical of all British, is a weather refugee who fled the UK because of bad weather to New York. And when he's not busy fleeing the weather, he's helping iconic brands, push boundaries and create innovation that push, that inspire the world and provoke thoughts. And so give a warm welcome to Dean Crutchfield.
Hey, greetings, everybody. While that's being set up, I actually feel like I've had a facelift because of these earpieces I've got in my head. So I've got a permanent grin on my face, but it's great to be here. I'm delighted that everyone's speaking English, so that actually makes me feel a whole lot better. And I'm going to go a little bit faster because we've lost some time. But what I wanted to talk about today was the business of service innovation. We're going to talk about what it is, we're going to talk about why it can be successful, and we're going to look at how to avoid the pitfalls of failure, all crammed into about 30, 35 minutes, and then we can have a Q&A session at the end of that. So what we're going to start with today, I brought a little bit of New York with me. There we are. Thank you. So basically, there's my remote. So what we have today is that issue of service innovation. So what it is, I'll have to do this by hand, yeah. So basically, if I can get my slides to work, is change the world. Literally, I think out of the 8 types of innovation that exist today, service innovation is the biggest opportunity to save or change the world in terms of how businesses operate. And the fascinating thing is, booyah, I'm in the right place, Germany. Well done. This was a study by Wall Street Journal. You're it. You're considered the one country that actually get it done, as opposed to many other countries where it's stuck in the shelf above. So that's really impressive. One of the things that confuses me, and I think you, is that 65% of the Western world is a service-based business. 65%. So where's all the service innovation? If there's not many service-based businesses, it confuses me in terms of where they actually are. But part of the problem is that most senior executives would rather put a barbecue out with their face than to actually undertake innovation. And this was said to me by a CEO once, that there are 3 ways to lose money: gambling, divorce, and innovation. And I think that sums up the attitude by a lot of senior leaders. And that's your problem, not their problem. We're doing the wrong thing. We're not communicating well enough. We're not convincing them enough. They just worry that it's a pit of cost and they don't get any results. So we need to improve what we're saying. And first of all, we need to actually differentiate between invention and service innovation. It's really critical that we do that. Invention is the idea that's never been seen in the market before. That's an invention. Service innovation is the improvement or an idea that improves an existing product or service. So let's get that right. Because a lot of time when you say service innovation to people, they either think you're turning a waiter into a robot, or basically they don't really understand what it's going to do for their business. So that's our job to do. And basically, that's the innovation process. Now, you all know about Uber. Uber set up in 2009. They saw a gap in the market. They've made it a market. It connects the rider to the driver of a luxury car that's looking to make some money on the side. They're now in 36 cities. And there's actually commentary on this development. They're actually saying this could be a market worth billions, literally. So it's a really exciting time. And we'll be talking about another brand later on that's kind of copied this, but they've done it at a different level. But Snapchat, a great service. It's really popular with the youth, really popular with millennials, and part of it is confidentiality. They've all realized now that picture of them running naked down the street with a beer bong is being spotted by an employer. So they're starting to surf your Facebook profiles. Your emails are on the file server, so your texts. So basically, Snapchat allows you to send information to somebody, as you know, and then crush it on the other end. So it's an excellent piece of service innovation by tapping a gap in the market and making it a market. So there's another fine example of how to use the novel use of technology to create a service innovation. So that's using novel technology. There's another one, which is the management of services. This is Cox. They're the 3rd largest cable operator in America, and they basically created a geo-mapping service that connected prospect customers with customers and their network. And what they were trying to do is make it more efficient. A massive overhead of these businesses are sending engineers out in their vans to set up things for people. Well, some of those people don't need that. They could do it over the phone, or they could operate and plug the box in through a self-installment kit. What that means is they can save money. It cost them $100,000 to do this program, and they've saved millions out of doing it. Again, another really smart innovation in terms of the management of services that are being provided. And one for you locally is RVE. I don't know if you've actually bought the home automation system, but basically, for them, it's a service innovation. For us as a general market, no, they've existed before. But for RVE, it is definitely a service innovation. But what's partly attractive by it is it's no longer a luxury item. They put it at a price where it's affordable for anybody. And the really smart brand and marketing strategy they've come up with is that basically anybody, even if they don't have RVE power, can buy the automation system. So it's a really smart piece of marketing as well as a service innovation for their company that's impacting their business, not just the innovation. And we'll be talking about how it impacts business later on. There's also another form which is impacting distribution. And this is a big area where service innovation can play a substantial role. This is ConnectPoint. You might not have heard of this because it's an American operation, but all of you, have you had parcels stolen from your front door? Have you been frustrated that the mailman comes back 3 times and then sends it back to the supplier, your shoes or your dress? They've sorted that with ConnectPoint. They have 1,000 outlets around America. They're usually in grocery stores or small corner shops that get paid for being a distribution point. And now when you're ordering from Amazon or any of those services, you then give the ConnectPoint address and you're guaranteed to get your product on the first delivery because they'll text you and email you that it's there for you. So it's a really smart service innovation based on distribution that's important. Again, not sexy, but wow, very successful. The one I love, though, is the one that's just come out. This one is big. This is AdTrap. Anyone seen this one? It's just been launched the last couple of weeks. It does what it says it does. It traps advertising. You plug in your cable to the box and the box to the wall, and you will not get any more online advertising. It kills it. That's why it's called AdTrap. The guy on the picture is a high school dropout. He left school at 16 years old, so it shows you that you can still have a promising future because he's come up with something massive. I mean, this is so big, it's frightened everybody. Think of all those advertisers and marketing people that suddenly their advertising message is not going to get through to you. So it's impacted the supply side of promotion, communications, and marketing. This is a game changer, a huge game changer. Costs $130, the box. And it does all that. Basically, no more advertising online. You're not going to see it. And they guarantee that it works for $130. The only downside of something like this, of course, is that we forget that advertising revenue is used by the content providers to make new content. If you kill marketing and advertising, you don't get that revenue. So one has to be a little bit careful to be so joyous and celebratory about it killing off your ads, because a lot of that revenue is being used to provide you new content. So that's the downside of it. But otherwise, phenomenal. I mean, this is huge. It has massive implications for the world of advertising and marketing. Worth checking out. I'm sure you'll be able to get the product sooner or later, but at the moment you get it in America. But competition's intense. That's why all this stuff's relevant. Most CMOs, CEOs, they want organic growth and they want innovation. But the problem is that they're frightened of innovation. They get the extension of their brand. So for instance, technology, or expanding your technology, Google's done brilliantly. Google Maps, Google Marketplace, Google Wallet. It's extending its franchise, creating new revenue streams for its business. And that's something like any leader wants in their business. Excuse me. And that's what any leader wants. They want the opportunity to expand their business franchise. And again, service innovation is most probably the best way to do that. But also, they want to find those gaps in markets. This is Square Register. You might have heard of this. I don't know if it's actually operating here in Europe. Good, thank you. Basically, this is a classic innovation that saw a gap in the market with small traders, local traders in markets that can't take credit cards. And they created the Square Register with the card reader, so you can now start taking it. Even if you're a one-man shop in a market stall, you can now take credit card payments. So it's a fascinating service innovation that saw a gap in the market and made it a market. That's classically where service innovation can play. But all of this means that organizations have to think differently. They have to look differently. They have to behave differently. So how do they do that with our help? Because without our help, our proper understanding of how they think, you're not going to get anything through. It's going to be a constant program of frustration that you can't sell the idea into the business. So why do companies win at service innovation? What are some of those traits that are important to create a program that's going to be successful? Well, one of them is Porter's 5 forces. In the middle is your competition, the rivalry in the market. But what's around it is other forms of competition. The threat of new entrants like Uber, the threat of suppliers who can sell their same product to any of your competitors, the threat of substitutes like Google, and then, of course, the big one, the power of customers. which it really has accelerated so much over the last 5 years that it's dramatically different, and it's impacted the entire customer journey because of how they've changed, with these factors playing in the face. So important that you know that, because that gives you more leverage when you're explaining something to your senior management or your potential client, that this is how you think. You can identify these as key elements of your service innovation, what it's trying to do, what it's trying to achieve. So that's the idea here, the business side of actual innovation. The other phenomena is, that was the five, I do apologize, that was the 5 forces, sorry. There it is there, my apologies. Basically, like I said before, new entrants, power of customers, power of substitutes, power of suppliers. This is a massive part of competition. This is competition. This is how it's done. There is nothing more relevant than that in terms of identifying your business plan and what it needs to do. But you also have to have a strong understanding of the innovation process. This is Tesla. Elon Musk is amazing, having created PayPal. They have a real instinct for innovation. They understand the process, which is tailored for them, and they do very well. But to have a successful innovation program, you need to have customer insights. And Starbucks, by the way, is ranked as number 19 in the world's most innovative companies by Forbes. What they've done is they've created a new service to actually impact customer complaints. And because they've got thousands of outlets, there's literally millions a day of different types of complaints being handled differently by all of the staff, and it's causing problems in terms of brand loyalty, customer frustration. And what they've developed is a really simple, I think it's a service innovation in the process, where it's called latte, like a cafe latte. And it's basically listen to the customer, acknowledge the problem, take action, thank them, and then explain what went wrong. And now they're literally industrializing that through the entire company. So suddenly they have a standard process for handling customer complaints. And it saves them a ton by using this system. So everyone knows what they need to do. So that to me is another form of service innovation. It's not technology oriented, but it certainly impacts the customer service for Starbucks dealing with their customers and complaints they have. So essential that you have customer insights to do what you do. But also it needs to fit into the fabric and essence of your brand. The reason why I'm showing Rolls-Royce, the engine's not the car, is that they've been doing service innovation for 50 years. They're most probably the oldest example of a real service innovation in the history of it. And when they first started, it's called power by the hour. And exactly it's that. While the engine's running, the operator pays. When the engine's off the wing, they don't pay. Now, what that means is that suddenly the operator has this service where he can identify his maintenance costs and what happens when they have a troubled engine, what he's going to be paying for, what he's not going to be paying for. This is a core part of Rolls-Royce service that builds the loyalty. And now they've got on-wing sensors that track the engine's performance so they can find any minute issue at the point that it's happening. This has never been known in traditional airline industry. Suddenly they have this technology. So it's an amazing service that they provide, and it creates the loyalty that they need. But it's got to be in your DNA. It's got to be relevant for the brand. It's got to fit in the fabric of the brand, and Rolls-Royce does it so well. So how can we emulate that? What do we need to do? Well, to me, there's like 4 basic kind of elements here to have a successful service innovation. First of all, you need to understand what the business is doing. And Catherine and Alexander are going to be giving you a speech about a business case at about 11 o'clock. But basically what we're talking about is, what's the business doing? So what does the service innovation need to do? What it should be like, and how or what should it be delivering? Those are key questions you need to ask yourself, because it's all about supporting the business. It's not working in a silo. It impacts the entire business, what you're doing, so you need to be able to build it out like this. So you need to look at what is the expectation of the service? What are you looking for in the process that you're adopting? And there are many different processes you can use. So what one's the most relevant for you? As you look at your issue, you look at your market, what's appropriate for you to get results? And also, why are you doing it? What's it going to do? What revenue is it going to generate? Is it going to be profitable? All of these questions you need to be thinking about, not just the service innovation itself and the process you're using. It's much bigger than that. And we're going to be seeing again from other people during the day of case studies where companies are really doing it. It's in their DNA. It's what they do. It's new to them, but they're getting it right. So, what's required in your innovation? You need to think money, materials, manpower, machines. What is it? This innovation process that you're going to build, what is that issue? What activities do you need to do that you haven't done already? Maybe it's more research, maybe it's an internal audit, maybe it's a competitive audit. But what are those activities that you're going to do? What are the internal factors that are going to hold you back? And obviously we know that because most senior executives don't really get it. So that's clearly one of the biggest factors that are holding you back. And it's your job to explain it, define it, and get them to, to actually to allow the service innovation to take place and to be funded. And then what are those external factors that could hold it back? And we looked at that a minute ago with those Porter 5 issues. That's your real external issue. The power of substitutes, the power of consumers, the threat of new entrants, and the power of, or the threat of substitutes. Those are the key elements you need to understand regarding your external factors that are going to hold you back. But the big issue to me is that a lot of businesses look from the inside out. This is me. I have permission to go to the market with this new idea. Well, actually, that's the wrong way to look. You need to be looking at it from the outside into the business, market-facing innovation. And that, of course, needs research. It needs those customer insights, but it needs attitude. A lot of firms get it wrong by thinking, hey, I can launch this service innovation because I'm me, and it fails. Because it's not relevant, it hasn't been thought through, and it hasn't been polished in a way that's going to make success. But it doesn't radically change the process. The process is still pretty simple. You look in, you look out, you imagine the idea, you then shape it, express it. Don't forget, an idea without form, function, or strategy, you might as well throw in the waste bucket. Because they have to have form, function, and strategy. Otherwise, it's just an idea. So how do you take that imagined idea and then shape it and express it so you give it that form? Once you've got that, how do you excite the organization about it? And of course, how do you excite the market about it? Which is very much Matias' point about marketing, brand strategy, and the relevance it has for service innovation. And then, of course, you basically launch it, you orchestrate that through your marketing strategies, and then you track the success. And I think one of the things that's very important about innovation is that entrepreneurs or entrepreneurial law says you can have 4 vision statements. Now, brand strategists, they freak out about that. But basically, that's what's required. You can have 4 rounds of vision because you're doing something new. So it's very important that just because you've come out with that the first time, you don't have to stay with it because it might need to move and change. So that's just a little bit of entrepreneurial law to think about. So why does this process help? Well, one of the massive things that's happened is that marketing's changed. This is the funnel. The awareness, the interest, the desire, action, the classic AIDA model. So lots of brands, you walk into the shop, one brand. Doesn't work anymore. It's irrelevant. It's a model that is failing, it's failed, and yet still marketing and advertising agencies and clients talk about it. It's literally, just recently it's changed, and it's changed like this. So what you effectively have is that consideration and evaluation phase. So obviously we do that online, we do it in chat rooms, we talk to friends. A recent study showed that word of mouth is 70 more times powerful than advertising. 70, word of mouth. And now that power of consumers is very much about word of mouth and what they get from reading up on the stuff. So once you've actually evaluated it, the amazing thing that's happened is you don't walk into the store or you don't go online and buy the one brand. What they found in research is you're now taking several brands to the point of purchase. And right at that point of purchase, they'll make the decision on what brand they're going to buy. Unless, of course, you're brand loyal to Kellogg's cornflakes, that's a different thing altogether. But we're talking about the plethora of products that are out there. In America, for instance, from 2009 to 2012, there was nearly 20,000 new products launched on the market, and 98% of them failed. So it just shows you the risk you take when you're actually doing these types of programs. But know that the customer journey is very different now. And the opportunity for service innovation of this is huge. Throughout the entire customer journey, from the start to the finish, the one type of innovation that can truly influence that and have impact is service innovation. So we need to go back to the drawing board. We need to identify the purchase pathway, the customer journey, and then we need to see where service innovation could be introduced throughout the entire process. So to me, that's very exciting because it hasn't been done yet. It's new, it's fresh. Most of the people are still thinking about the funnel, and it's not about that anymore. The other problem, though, is that senior executives, your management, your colleagues who don't do the innovation, they'd rather set their hair on fire and put it out with a hammer than to actually do innovation. And because they're scared, they don't really get this. They don't understand it. It's a huge confluence and complexity of different things. There was a study recently that talked to CMOs, chief marketing officers of some of the major brands around the world, and 2/3 of them said they're not ready. They're not prepared. 2/3 said they're not ready for this type of marketing. I mean, it's pretty spooky when you think about it. Now, one company that gets it and that did really well was Burberry. And you all know what they did a few years ago. They basically reinvented the fashion show business, because they basically allowed the customer to come to be live in the fashion show, watch the fashion show, and order products. It had never been done before. It sits in that now the DNA of Burberry, and it's a phenomenal success, how they've used technology to enhance the process and to grab more market share. And again, I think what came up before was, one of the things that bothers me is that people do things in silos. And digital technology, digital innovation, basically impacts every single facet of the business. So if you're talking to business people, be mindful of this. It's going to affect your strategy, it's going to affect the style, it's going to affect the systems you need, the skills you need, and that needs to be thought out in your proposal. You need to answer that business case. Again, Martin and Catherine will be talking about that at 11 o'clock. But I think it already came up that one of the most successful firms that takes that right into heart is Amazon. They were voted again in this Forbes study as number 7 in the global brands of innovation. So they really are a big player in that game. But it fits their DNA. You know, it's actually in their business. It's why their business exists. So it's a really powerful example of how a company has taken on this is called the 7S framework, by the way. It's a McKinsey tool, and McKinsey still use it. So it's obviously very effective. If they're using it, it's a good idea for you to use it too, because your business, your boss is going to like it. So that's the story of Amazon. But, I mean, Amazon's really about that don't say, do model. I was talking to Ulrich, who thankfully, found me on the street, not knowing where the hell I was going, about half an hour ago in the rain, and he thankfully saved me. And that was don't say, do. He basically just came and helped me. So, this is the kind of thing that Amazon are. They don't talk about it, they do it. But also the other important thing about service innovation is that it's not just about changing traditional markets. It's also changing emerging markets that are happening right now, and they're being challenged too through service innovation. So one of the traditional markets, you've got Mercedes has the Embrace program. This is OnStar. It's an American program. It's on Buick, Chrysler, GM, Cadillac. All the major American brands use it, and it's basically a satellite to driver rider experience. But what they've done that's so innovative, apart from a really good piece of kit that a lot of people use, when they have a crash or they need to find directions or anything like that, what they've introduced is First Assist. Now, First Assist are medical professionals who are available 24/7. And it's already got lots of cases of saving lives. You've had a crash. OnStar can spot you've had a crash, say, can you hear me? How are you? And then depending on how mashed up they are, they'll bring in the First Assist guys and girls who will then talk them through what they need to do, from a medical standpoint before the ambulance gets there. It could be, ripping up a fabric and putting it on your wife's head. Whatever it is, they'll think quickly about what you need to do to save death. And they've got amazing case studies where they've literally saved lives. So I think that that's a massive service innovation. Now, it's copyable, but they're ahead of the game, and it's created a lot of brand loyalty to it. So I think that's an interesting one of established markets. And the other challenge is emerging markets. This is open study. Have you heard the debate? I'm sure your top universities in Germany, you've got Harvard, Yale, Princeton in America. It's about online modules, online education. And so that's becoming a big thing, but that's specific organizations offering you, online their services, their education protocols. But what Open Study is about is the name. You can be studying anything from any university around the world, and you could go to Open Study and you can talk to other people who are studying that subject or doing that thesis, where you can talk and collaborate in terms of getting the information you need. Or it just could be a subject you're interested in. And you can go to Open Study and you find connections. So this is actually affecting that emerging market of online education by blowing it open. And behind it is New York University, Princeton's endorsed it, the Wall Street Journal's endorsed it, New York Times has endorsed it. Basically there's a lot of excitement about what Open Study can do regarding the future of education. So what does success look like? Is it that easy? First Assist, is all this stuff, is it just easy? They just thought about it and it worked? Or is it actually quite tough? Again, it's like this constant, kind of chaos that goes into the program, as you all know who've done it. There's constant rethink, rethoughts, new research, new insights, new vision statements. It's kind of like, it's flailing around in there like a machine. But nonetheless, that's how you get to success. As they say, fail fast. Most important language of innovation. If you're going to fail, you want to fail rapidly, so you can then, adopt a new program, or you can attach some additional information or services to it to make it successful. So, the two key things you need to do is is this going to make money? You need to answer that question, because if it's not, why are you doing it? And also, what do you need in the process in terms of the research methodology, the tools, the methods you're going to use? So that needs to be detailed as well. Guess what? You know them, but your boss doesn't. Then you need to coerce them, to educate them as well as you can, and these are some of the things you need to answer that they'll get, they'll understand, they'll accept. So these are important questions that need to be answered. Why? Failure. The huge number of innovations that fail. Often because they haven't thought about it right. Often because they just have a great idea, but they have no idea of how to take it to market. So what does failure look like? One, it's an afterthought. You're too late to the market with the service that you're doing. It also remains like a dark pit of cost and lost revenue because it costs so much money to do it. And also, it doesn't make money. So why are you doing it? This is the business of service innovation. You've got to come out of the silo. You have to understand that the senior management are not the problem. You're the problem. I'm the problem, because we're not explaining it right. We need to look at ourselves and think about that business of service innovation and how you can talk to a business in their language so you can get that permission to do it. Really vital. So the first thing you need, although I did see this picture, not that big, I think the first thing you need is a manicure. But anyway, bad picture of a hand. But that first idea is a big idea. What's that idea that's going to be so huge that it's kind of set on fire? And don't forget that, again, I said, an idea without form, strategy, and function is just an idea. So how does it come alive? How do you make it happen? And this is the part of the problem. This is Francis Ford Coppola, and I was at a private marketing dinner. There was 25 of us, and he was the guest. And what he came out with was so true. If people aren't saying your idea is crazy, then it's not really a big idea. And I think that's so relevant. It is that issue. You want it to be a big idea. You want it to be dynamic. You want it. Most importantly, however, is where we go wrong with innovation. We don't have a business model. Innovation impacts the business model. It changes it, tweaks it, or it totally reinvents the business model of the company and the business model in the market. So an interesting case is Good Search. They're an online philanthropy tool that basically, they have over 15 million people using it. They have over 100,000 charities. And what they do is, as a customer, you identify the charity you like, and then you use Good Search, to search content, to book restaurants, to buy goods online. And the more you use it, the more Good Search contributes to your charity. And that's partly realistic, because guess what? Advertising revenue. Come back to my earliest point. Advertising revenue does have a role, and it certainly has a role here. So Good Search has got an entirely new business model of philanthropy. So this is a great example of an innovation that has a business model. And I can't go on about that enough. You have to have a business model. Otherwise, it's not going to be a success. And the senior management, the people you're dealing with in the business, aren't going to get it. You need to talk about that impact that it has. The second idea is that you need to have a future grip on the market and where it's going, because you might miss it. So you need to have that foresight of the gaps in the market. A really interesting one is actually based on Uber. This is Lyft. They're on the West Coast. They've just set up. They're in a few cities. They're growing. This is the low end of the market. So you're basically connecting the rider to a driver of not a great car, and they have to put this pink mustache on the front of the vehicle. So it's kind of heavily signaged. So it's a bit, it's cheeky. It's cheeky and it's cheap. You're sitting there with a car with a pink mustache. But what it does, it's still a mobile app, and you're paying a lot less for the price. So it's very competitive. Getting to the airport, traveling a distance, very cost competitive, very successful. And it's, in a sense, like Uber reinventing the taxi and limousine business. And of course, they're up in arms about it, because they've got all the infrastructure, they've got the overhead that these don't have. So it's causing a real stink. And they're obviously going to look to change the law. So in a sense, that's looking ahead. What's going to happen if they do change the law or introduce new regulation? It could blow out your project. So where do you think it's going? That's important. And then the third issue is, where are you positioning the product? There are two directions of competitive differentiation. One's a low-cost model, and one's the uncopyable model. Those are the two extremes. So where does your innovation sit? Are you competing in the market on a price differential? Or are you competing on the market because it's such a new, unique idea that no one else has it, and you can actually, you can create intellectual property from it, and you can license it so no one else can do it. But that's great. But what really matters is the language you use to, again, the business that you're advising, the client you've got, or the boss you have. And there are 3 wonderful words that you should be talking about. Upsell, where you can get the client to spend more money on more expensive offers. Cross-sell, when you can send more products. And then, of course, retention, retaining the customer, and brand loyalty. Those are the 3 key words that's good in your conversation to look out for. And the other thing you need is an elevator pitch. And that's where a lot of people fail, because they don't have the elevator pitch, really. It's vitally important. I don't know if this presentation's made available to you, but it's worth sketching down, because guess what? Use that, easy. You'll have an elevator pitch within 20 minutes, because you can follow that model. Well, maybe more than 20 minutes, but you know what I mean. So there's a great structure to help you with that elevator pitch. And the other thing is that Matias answered the other day about the 4 Ps. Well, what I want to talk about in terms of the business of service innovation is the 6 Ps, which is the price, the product, the place, the promotion, but also performance and people. That's important for service innovation, as opposed to traditional marketing. And the other important thing about approaching those 6 Ps, and you have to fill them out, genuinely complete every aspect of it, is don't forget government initiatives and government regulations. Everyone forgets that, but it's a little trick in that using that 6 Ps that makes it very effective. So don't forget to look at that element, government regulation, government initiative. And then do it right, and you can help, for people, for profit, for planet. That's my speech. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I hope it was useful to you. And thanks very much for paying attention to me. Thank you. Did that go fast?
Yeah, perfectly on time. Wow. Dean, content and delivery. I think looking at everyone's reactions, you sucker punched us all. Wow, great. So, yeah, that's actually, that was a lot to take in. And I'm sure you guys now have a lot of questions to maybe ask Dean about his presentation. So, yeah. Oh, yeah,
Come on, then.
Come on up. Bring it on. Anyone? Martin's ready.
Hey, can you hear me? It's on? Yeah. So I have a question about some of the most successful services actually in recent times, like Spotify or Facebook or different social media services. They've had a hard time actually getting profitable. So what are your thoughts about that?
I think it all comes down to the strength of the idea and the business model, which I know you guys are covering off. It's about the business case. Spotify is not making any money. It's going to go bankrupt. We talked about this the other day. There's a lot of service innovations out there that sadly aren't working. They're not getting the pickup. Pandora's another one not doing well. So these are interesting services, but why aren't they growing their customer base? What is wrong? There's something wrong about their business model. That's what I believe. And that's why it's failing. And they need to look at that business model and engage it in a different way if the current one's not working. So to me, really important about idea and innovation is the business model, the business case.
Thank you very much. I would like to pick up on that and stay with that. How much do you see that, let's use Spotify as an example. The problem Spotify with their business model, in my opinion, is that they have to work with partners who, I'll just be bold, who have no interest in what Spotify does or supplying as a subscription model for a lower price. So basically they have to work with other partners who are not that user-centric. Spotify might have noticed what the user wants, and they've created a product that the users actually want and they want to have it, and they're offering it in a dimension and a price that the user might want to afford. But they get obstacles from other partners.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they just don't want that. What are your experiences with that?
I think that, again, the Spotify example is their business model is wrong. Why? They're offering you to cut out advertising. They must be looking at another model that invites advertising somehow, and that would change their business model. But what they're trying to offer you is, hey, no advertising. Well, no advertising means no revenue, and certainly in terms of some substantial revenue that they could generate. So that's one example. How do they become more sophisticated with the advertising platform? without bombarding you with ads. How do they do that? How do they sponsor a band, or whatever? What else is there that these brands can actually sponsor things that are involved? And it could be they're sponsoring the hour show, or they're sponsoring a certain type of music. And at least you get to see that, but they don't keep on repeating any ads to you. But I believe that part of their problem is the fact they don't have advertising deep into their business model. I think they're trying to avoid it. Hey, good.
Yeah.
No?
Anyone else for more questions? No? Okay.
Okay. Well, look, thanks for listening. If you've got any questions afterwards, just ask me. And we'll try to make the presentation available to you, especially that little elevator pitch slide, which I think is pretty useful. And the funny thing about presentations is you're only going to remember 3 things from my presentation, because that's just a fact. So if you go away from here, that's all you're going to get. So pick your 3. Thank you very much.
So once again...